Welcome to the Oh So Spurs podcast, where we have got lots of exciting topics today. We have got another 2 victories to discuss, another new signing for Tottenham, the departures and a trophy for Tottenham, the departures of even more players that many would have defined as dead wood. Emerson has just been announced that he is likely to depart next week, and we're also going to be doing some squad comparisons between the 2022-2023 season when Ange took over to what it is now, and where that leaves us looking for the upcoming season. And to discuss it all, we have Stu in Dubai. How are you, Stu?
All good. How are you all doing?
Doing very well, thanks, mate. Yeah, can't complain. The sun is shining in the UK, and the first game back at Spurs nears every single minute that passes. And Deej, how are you, mate?
I'm doing good. Sun shining here in Austin, but that's kind of like default.
Yeah.
It's I kind of wish it would stop sometimes, man. It's too hot here.
Tell us the 2 weeks a year it's not sunny. Yeah.
Probably,
it did snow actually earlier this year.
Is it?
Well,
Yes,
we had
Stu.
up to 60, with humidity. It felt like 62 degrees last weekend.
Man,
Jeez.
I don't do European units. I'm sorry.
Well, with Fahrenheit, it's crazy. Whatever it is.
I can imagine.
Not for me. Good old English football in English climate is where I'm happy. Right, guys. Should we start with the games? Because we've got back-to-back victories and a trophy to discuss, right? And I've read that's actually technically Tottenham's 4th trophy since the League Cup, if you want to count them all.
Hold on. Let me see if I can think of 2 of them. I know the Audi Cup and the Tiger Cup. What's the last one? Oh, we split that one. The one with what was the trophy? It was like 2 preseasons ago, I think.
Yeah, there was one where it was about 2 games long. Anyway, we've apparently won up to 4 trophies.
Obviously very memorable.
Either none or 4, depending on what your bar is or barometer is for a trophy. But we have a lot to unpick from those performances, right? I know they're only friendlies, and we take them all with a pinch of salt, and people will say, yeah, but the one they ran last season, we smashed everyone to bits. Our final game of the preseason was a 5-1 win against Roma, and then we went on to get 2 points from 8 games. But I think there's still a lot to be learned from the lineups that we see within those friendlies, and there's a caveat there that Van de Ven, Dragusin, and Udogie have not been available for these games, so that's meant playing very much makeshift defences and not wanting to, and Romero.
About to say, you forgot this.
And Romero.
Rather important Romero.
Just Romero, I will discuss this later because there's been a lot of statistics from Squawka that have come out in the last week, which basically they set the Twitter ecosystem a challenge of find someone that can beat Romero statistically from last season.
Van de Ven at first, and then Romero beat him. No one can beat Romero.
No one could beat him. Van Dijk got smashed by him. Saliba got smashed by him. Everyone got smashed by Romero. And there's some really, really interesting stats around it. And it really sent the Gooners into a kind of meltdown around it all and all the, what do you call it, the copium to try and cope with it. But anyway, the performances against QPR and Kobe, I wanted to start with, you've seen those fixtures, what did you make in particular of Archie Gray's performance? Because I think he's one that's been playing out of position. We know he's a versatile player. I want to see him in midfield in the next season, but still. Stu, what have you made of his performances so far?
I think that I understand why we spent 40 million on an 18-year-old, because I think he looks like he's stepped up without any problems, playing central defense, which isn't his position at all, and looking very self-assured. I think once he starts playing in positions which he's more used to, we're going to see even more of the quality that he's got. And I think the sky's the limit. And what I really like as well is I've seen interviews with him, and he seems like he's a very level-headed guy. He's been brought up very well. He looks up to his grandfather, who he has referred to more than once, and all the trophies he's won. And his goal is to be the footballer in the family with the most trophies, and that's why he's come to Tottenham. I don't know if he's noticed we haven't won anything since the League Cup, but hopefully he's the one that changes that and achieves his goals with.
And Deej, do you have anything to add to that about his performances?
I mean, yeah, he's just like, he's one of, first of all, I'd like to add that I will be, when Archie Gray becomes like a world-class player, wherever he ends up, I will be pushing the narrative that we got him for 25 million because of Joe Rodon going the other way. So just be ready for that. We did not spend 40 million on him. But yeah, I mean, obviously, you can just, even in a preseason game, you can just see how comfortably he is on the ball, how good he is at making decisions, and also like how much better he'll be when he's not playing center back, which is pretty clearly, I think, the only qualms that I've had with his play so far is that sometimes you can tell that he's playing like a certain position in the way that like a wing back or a DM would play it, which is fine because that's where he's supposed to play, and that's not as far. I don't think that he's going to be someone we're trying to convert into a center back anytime soon. So yeah, he's just been fantastic. Another player that I want to shout out. I don't remember if I did it on the last podcast or not, but I'm going to do it again anyway. I think Jed Spence has continued a fantastic preseason for him. Everything that's come out about him has been positive, and it's really looking like he's going to stay and be our backup right back, which, because he's homegrown, solves a lot of problems in our squad.
Oh, absolutely. Like, to go out and find a good backup wingback who's homegrown, you're going to spend 20 to 30 million pounds minimum, and it's probably the only person you can think of as Carl Walker-Peters that's realistically available to go get, and he's significantly older than Spence. So if Spence has turned a corner, it's great, and it also makes you kind of just take a deep breath and think, were we overly harsh on a very young individual who, quite understandably, earning a lot of money with groups of, in those kind of circles of the rich and blah, 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 and famous, may have lost their way for 10 seconds and pulled themselves back onto the straight and narrow? Like, fair play to Jet. And if this is the case that he really has, it's absolutely fantastic. So he's got 3 years left in his contract. He's young, and he fits the profile of what we need. Sorry, Stu, you're thinking there.
Yeah, there's 2 things I wanted to say about Jed. Is one, I'm a little bit worried because I agree with both of you. I really hope he stays because I think he's looked so self-assured in the friendlies so far. But I read on an article this morning, Football London, is that they still think he's going to leave, which worries me because I hope that's not true. But I also think that he, and I think many other young English players should do the same thing, is I think he grew up a lot when he went to Genoa, because he went to Leeds and he got sent back because of his poor behavior. But I think his move to Genoa, where he was away from probably his mates and things like that, different culture, and I think he grew up a lot. And I think he's come back with a very different mindset. And I think that's why Ange now is giving him a chance. Because last year he was in the bomb squad. Ange didn't even give him a chance. Whereas now what I was hearing was that he was even getting given individual trainings on certain things. And that really, really, gives me hope that that he's going to stay in. He fits on both left and right back. He's good with both feet. He's played both on both sides for Leeds and for Genoa. So he could be an amazing new signing, so to speak.
I'm pretty sure there was some toxic commentary going around that he had missed training yesterday. And then some less official, let's say YouTube accounts or whatever, that are out watching the pre-season tour said, no, he turned up 3 hours before everyone else. And the media missed him because he turned up so early to the venue, and it ended up being true. I think there's a narrative around Spence, and we see it with certain players. We've had it in countless occasions where they're branded as something, and people just compound it and look for reasons to justify that perception. But he seems to, of the last month at least, be acting in the opposite way to what he was stereotyped as. So let's hope that continues. But
yeah,
I mean, go on.
He's one last thing. He's 23. If anyone watching this podcast who was over the age of 23 is looking back on their probably 20 to 23-year-old years and say you didn't do anything stupid or probably and not in the best interest of your job, you're lying. Be so serious right now. It's I do agree he's making a lot more, and I think that if he had continued in his pattern of apparent pattern of not taking his job, his profession seriously, then obviously it's something to move on, because you don't want that kind of atmosphere in the locker room. But I'm just trying to make the point that he's still young. He's got like Stu said, he obviously has grown up a bit, or at least it seems that way, from his most recent loan. And I don't think it's all that improbable that was the case. Like I said, he's young. He has the ability to grow and mature.
And DJ, thing like you're saying, go back to anyone listening to this, if you're over 23 years old, statistically, I know most of you are significantly older than 23. Go back into your phone photos, but probably the cloud didn't exist when you go back this far for most of our listeners. But if you can go back to when you were 23 years old and have a look at the photos, or find a photo of you at 23 years old, and I imagine most of them are you being an absolute prat, having fun with your mates. Now, a 23-year-old professional footballer can go on one night out a year and then will be slandered for it and have bad 6 months of attitude and be slandered for it. It's such a different world. So I think when we're going down this rabbit hole is let's lean on the side of open-mindedness and understanding to a second chance for a player who's clearly talented. So let's see how it goes. But I don't want to waste too much on suspense because we still have, and I believe this is the most excited I've ever been about the potential of a squad at Spurs. And I'd put it on par with when Poch took over and we suddenly realised, like, oh my gosh, we have, Hugo Lloris, Heung-min Son, Jan Vertonghen, Moussa Dembele, Dele Alli, Harry Kane, all this young core of a squad that was going to just grow and grow and grow over a 4 or 5 year period and be a spine of a team that did go on to do very, very good things. Now we've got Bergvall, we've got Archie Gray, we've got Porro still I'd count as young, we've got Pape Matar Sarr, we've got Alfie Devine, we've got Lanksheare, we've got our new signing as well in Min Hyuk Yang. We've got
Donnelly.
Just Donnelly, the amount of young talent.
And we have another, is he 17-year-old? Then Vuskovic, still to come to the club.
On loan. Technically Valise, but a few people are losing a bit of hope there. But anyway, there's insane. If 3 of those players end up being Heung-min Son, Harry Kane, Moussa Dembele type Tottenham famous signings, wow, like this squad is set to have a team with those players in it for the next decade with great players already around them. With Udogie, always forgot about him. What a player. It's just, I can't think of a time.
And with generational talent, Mikey Moore.
Mikey Moore, oh my, it's just never. Then you've got players like Vicario and you're like, as a keeper, you've got 6-7 years left in you. It's actually, Maddison's still got 4 or 5 years. Kulusevski and Johnson, they've still got 5 or 6 years. Like, that core of that squad is going to, on average, improve self-sustainably over the next 5 years, just organically through experience. And then on top, we're going to be spending, if you go by what's on average as a club over the last 5 seasons, 150 million quid a year on new players to add on top of that. There's reasons to be pretty optimistic, don't you think, about all this? But I'll go to you, Stu. Who out of all these young players are you most excited about? You can pick one of these people.
Well, I mean,
Bergvall. Bergvall. Sorry, I forgot Bergvall.
Mikey Moore looks amazing. I mean, the kid is 16. His face is that of a 16-year-old. The way he walks on a pitch is that of a seasoned pro.
I love it.
He is. I think honestly, when I was saying generational talent before, it was very much kind of tongue in cheek, but he has the potential. He looks amazing. Looks really amazing. Bergvall, I mean, you just said he looked. I mean, if you compare his first 10 minutes against Celtic to his last game, already in 3 games he's come on leaps and bounds. But there's another one that I really, really have high hopes for, and that's Lanksheare. I think he really could be, a top striker for us. He's already leapfrogged Scarlett and Valise as a late.
And Deej, would you agree with you there, or is there someone else you've got your eye on?
I have to. As soon as Mikey Moore gets a first team number, I will be acquiring it. I don't normally get jerseys with names on the back, but I feel somewhat contractually obligated to get a jersey with Moore on the back. But yeah, obviously, like, the obvious answer is Mikey Moore, but I'd like to, I guess, echo the shout out of Will Lanksheare, because a lot of the decisions that I think we've made, especially surrounding like the sale of Troy Parrott, I don't think make as much sense until you look at the new 5-year deal that we gave Lanksheare and the amount that he's played in the preseason. I mean, I think that just that shows that the club think very highly of him, and I'm interested to see if he is going to go out on loan to a championship side or if he's going to be someone who we keep around the first team. And I honestly, depending on sales and purchases, I wouldn't be upset if he was someone who hung around for earlier cup games, Europa League, group stage, something like that. I think he's been fantastic.
I think if you think the youngsters played 2 days before the senior game, so Lanksheare I think played in that, and then he played again yesterday ahead of Valise and Scarlett. I think that speaks volumes that Valise and Scarlett are in trouble and will likely be sent out at least on loan and will not be around the first team squad, because if they were going to be involved, they would be getting game time.
And I wouldn't even look at it as like those guys being in trouble. I'd say it as those guys were the old type of youth player that Spurs would get excited about as fans, and 9 out of 10 of them end up going to a Norwich City or a Southampton or somewhere like that and being a good player for those kind of sides. And we're like, damn it, you know, like the person because they support Spurs just like us. Whereas I feel now, like, yes, I get that some people are like, yeah, but they're not academy products. You know, we're signing a lot of these young players at a younger age from other places. But that's just the way it goes, by the way. Like, you know, anyway, don't go into all the rabbit hole of that. But I think it's just our youth recruitment has gone from being good to taking itself up to trying to act like a world-class recruitment again. And the likes of Barcelona and Real Madrid and even Man United, to be fair to them, they get these young players that come through and they truly cement themselves into a first team because they are that level of elite player. And I feel like we've moved that direction. And to win a league, a club like Spurs who can't spend like City, you need 2 or 3 of your squad to come from a youth academy and make up for that 100 million quid a year less you have to spend than those clubs. So it's so refreshing to see us getting into that mixer. And as a fan, it takes away that short-termism of like, oh, I want a trophy so much this year. It gives you something else to just enjoy through the building process of, I get to watch Mikey Moore get 1% better every week. I get to watch Lucas Bergvall get better. I get to watch Sarr get better. I get to watch Oh God, we've got Van de Ven. He's 22, right?
Ashley Phillips.
Ashley Phillips. It's literally never ending, this list. It's just, is there, guys, you both answer this, is there a team in the league where you could swap all your players under 24 years old for with ours? Is there any team you would do that trade with?
I don't think there's any team in the league that I would do that for just with Mikey Moore, to be honest. I
said don't get carried away with friendly stage.
Hey man, what is a podcast for if not for reactionary clickbait things to say? So there's mine for the episode. Y'all got to get working.
Okay, right. So we have the best. We have the best youth crop of players in the Premier League.
In the world.
In the world. In the world. Love it. But it's not just about who's coming in, is it, guys? It's about who's leaving to make room for these people. And Stu, you did some research on here, right? And we touched this 2 episodes ago. Yeah, Ali Gold, we know you're listening. You touched on our stat there. You didn't mention us in your YouTube video, but that was us. I think it's 11 players from our first team squad in the 22-23 season have departed or are set to depart, which is, bear in mind, that is pretty much half your whole entire senior squad since Ange Postecoglou has taken over. Essentially, that you had some data around that, right, Stu, about who that was?
Yes, so we've got Loris, who left. Again, this also shows that we have changed the mentality that many accuse the club of holding on to players for big money, etc. So we've let Loris go on a free. We've let Dyer go for a supposedly 4 million loan fee, which then ended up leaving on a free. Des left on a free. Ersic left on a free. Sanchez left for about 8.5 million. Parrott's gone for 8.5 million. Moore left on a free. Tanganga left on a free. Ndombele, we paid off £10 million to leave. Hojbjerg's gone for supposedly 12 million, rising to 17 million. Kane left for 80 million. Winks left for 10 million. Rodon left for 10 to 15, depending on how much we think he went for in the Gray deal. Gil is gone on a loan, a clause of, I think it's 15 million. And then we've got Royal, who's likely going to be joining Milan in the next week. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 players since Ange arrived.
14 players. And you think out of a squad that, okay, you have 25 in that squad, but that squad includes like Brandon Austin, Alfie Whiteman, George Abbott, Santiago, Danjuma on loan. So when you actually, Michael Coop, like there's loads of players anyway. So when you add all these up, it's pretty much 3/4 of the senior team have effectively left. We've basically retained Son, Bentancur, Kulusevski, Porro technically signed during Ange, that's why he isn't on there, isn't he?
Yeah, because
Udogie did.
Yeah, Porro he joined before Ange because it was an option. Not wasn't an option; it was an obligation to buy. Kulu was technically an Ange buy.
And then there was Basuma. And God, I don't think there's many others. There's literally Davies.
You got Lo Celso, Davies.
But Lo Celso will likely be gone any moment, as will Royal. Because according to Fabrizio, Royal's gone next week. Yeah. That's just kind of announced tonight. So you're literally talking
Reggie.
Skip and Reggie. Reggie's going. So you're saying realistically like 6 of our first, and Richarlison. So let's say 7 of our first team 25-man squad is going to be actively involved post, from Ange joining to now. That is mental. And people saying we're not aggressively offloading enough. Talk about swallowing your pride and taking losses on players. You've spoken a lot about they have just been offloaded for free. That is an insane overhaul. And Ange did sign 22 players in 2 seasons. So that just shows the level. And we're going through that similar churn right now. So it's so exciting.
And I think it's important to say we had options that we could have extended to try and make money out of Sessegnon and Tanganga, but we didn't take them to allow them to leave for free. So again, it's showing that mindset that we were happy just to get them out the door, make space for whoever Ange wants.
Yeah. And you know what? We had it on the running order, guys, to talk about Hill and Hojbjerg. Did we get enough money for these guys? And was it a good deal? I can't be bothered to get into it. Personally can't be bothered to get into the toxic negativity of all that conversation. I don't know about you guys, but I'm just feeling we've moved on players. Their history is such an insignificant, tiny extrapolation of information around a wider rebuild of our squad. Do we really want to dive into that? Or do we get excited about? Go on.
So I go to DJ.
To put more perspective on it. Like, let's be honest. Like, if you think we could have sold Hojbjerg for more money last season, but then we probably would have had to rush to buy a replacement that the club apparently did not think existed in the money, the bracket that we would have wanted to spend. So then we would have just been stuck with another player that was like good but not quite good enough potentially, and then we're in the same problem over again. So instead we hold on to a player that we know is good, maybe not doesn't fit quite into the system that we want, but we know is a player that can do a job when asked. And we keep him for an extra year. We sell him for over 10 million, which is pretty decent for a player on the last year of his deal. And we get to get his wages off the books, which is a not insignificant chunk of money. So, and that's the same for all of these players that we've moved on. It's like we've said this so many times, but I'm going to say it again it's not just the players it's not just the fees you get from the players, but it's the amount that you're able to spend on the wage budget from the players that you sell, the players that you get rid of. So even if you're not particularly enthused by fees that we've got for the players, you have to remember that we're also saving money week after week after week after week after week, because we're no longer paying those wages, and because obviously the Premier League wages, those wages add up quickly.
Absolutely. Like, the numbers are insane, right? We spend on transfers since anyway 120 million pounds a season on fees net average. Like, our salaries are 120 million pounds a year. Just for context, Man City spent 200 million pounds a year on wages. Man United spend about the same, 200 million pounds a year on wages. Arsenal spend 160. Chelsea spend 160. Liverpool spend 150. Like, the wages, that amount over a 10-year period, you're going, okay, Man City are spending 2 billion a decade on wages. That is more than double what they're spending on transfer fees over that decade period. The wages far outstrip what you spend on transfers. And that's why it makes sense, because clubs can't, and people are like getting upset about, I know Man United, like example, they offloaded a lot of staff recently to reduce wage bills, and people are like, it's crazy, like these are, staff members have been at the club for years and blah, blah, blah. But football's so weird. Like, when it's not normal for half your business's turnover to go into paying 1% of your employees. And that is how it goes in football. So the rest of your business, you're now going, that's $1 billion business. It's not really, because 500 million quid of that, half your income is going to paying 1% of your staff that you can't get rid of because they are the money generator. So you're actually half the size of what you look like on paper, if that makes sense. And then you've got to somehow build out that thousands of more staff, new players' wages, youth academies, blah, 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 blah. It's so hard to get right.
Because the other thing that I wanted to bring up as well about signings is everyone's always obsessed with, we only spent 30 million or 50 million, whatever transfer market claims we've sent. But those figures don't include agent fees. So the reason I bring it up is I was reading an article in La Gazzetta recently where Zirkzee, he went for about 35 million quid, but his agent got paid 15 million euros on top of that, which no one ever talks about. But those are fees that the club who buys the player has to pay. What a club spends buying a player isn't just the number that we read about, but it's a number much higher than that.
Of course, Haaland is the case study example. City fans acting like he was a bargain. Every single club in world football wanted him at their football club. And they said, he's only 40 million quid. Plus the 50 million pounds to his agent. Still, 90 million quid, best player in the world. You could have got him. Okay, the 500 grand a week in wages, like plus bonuses. He earned $1 million a week when you add all the bonuses at City. Football clubs can't sign up to a situation where someone costs them 250 million pounds in wages and 100 million pounds in other fees, 350 million pounds over a 5-year cycle. Like, we'd just go bankrupt. If you've got a state behind you and you can pay agents off without impacting your financial fair play, and you can get away with other things like, dodgy sponsorships and breaking 115 rules to get that money into your club, you can make it work. But for Spurs, we need to go after 16, 17, 18, 19-year-olds with the potential be Erling Haaland before they cost what Erling Haaland costs and what their agent wants for them. So next up, boys, we've got one more friendly game, and then we've got Bayern Munich, right? The doubleheader at Bayern Munich.
I think so, yeah.
So we're playing 2 games in Korea?
2 games in Korea, the Korean
Cool.
All-Stars,
Okay.
and then Bayern.
Okay.
And then I think we have another
We're
Bayern
playing-
match later.
In 2 days on the 31st, I believe, we've got another game, and that 3 days, and then we've got
Bayern the
So-
weekend.
then Bayern on the weekend. So they've got the flight back to the UK, and then the
then
doubleheader
Bayern
against
again.
Bayern. Yeah. Are you guys looking forward to seeing Kane back at the ground, or are you not so bothered?
It's not bothering.
I hope he gets a good reception. And at the end of the day, he did spend most of his life at the club. So
Yeah.
I hope he gets a good reception, but I hope he doesn't score.
Obviously.
Yeah.
It'll depend on whether or not we sold Emerson by then.
Or Sarr, depending on yesterday.
Yeah.
Um,
Damn it.
Yeah, we went to the
But I also hope that Dyer gets a really good reception, because I thought Dyer was also always a top pro.
Absolutely. Dyer is in the Michael Dawson, Paul Robinson camp of like, you weren't Spurs through where you were born, but you were Spurs because you got it.
Yeah.
You just got it. You loved the derby. You just got it.
Yeah.
You loved Spurs. Even though our fans,
And he's
some of them
an
were.
intelligent bloke as well, unlike the other bloke who went to Bayern.
True. Dyer speaks, 3 languages, and
Yeah.
he's a bit more well-travelled, isn't he? But bless him. But both lovely guys. Wish them all the best. No need to be toxic, sickly and friendly. But do we want to finish on, I think what's probably the most exciting topic at the moment is Min Hyuk Yang. I hope I pronounced that right. And if you are listening, because I know some of our listeners are living in Korea, please correct us and let us know if we've got that wrong. And apologies if I have. But for what I've seen so far, based on a YouTube compilation, is we've gone and signed the best of Heung-min Son, Gareth Bale, and Cristiano Ronaldo all in one. Plays both wings. He's going to just replace Werner next season after coming back from his loan spell, and then he'll replace Sonny in 2 or 3 seasons' time as his heir. Am I a little bit excited there, Deej? How do you see him?
I would say that you are actually spot on. I think you're being a little bit generous in like I think you're being a little you're tamping expectations down a little too much there. I think we've signed the player who is better in every sense of the game than anyone we've ever seen before. And that's the case with everyone we sign if you just watch the YouTube compilations. But to be a little bit more level-headed, I'd say obviously when you sign a player this young, there's no guarantee of any sort of like pan out. There's no guarantee of success with youth. But if you look at everything around this guy and the performances that he's put in, I know that the clip of him scoring in the most recent game after he was announced that he was coming to us has gone around, and people are thinking it's stuff along the lines of what Jim was saying. But everything surrounding him, and his come up in the Korean League it's all the hallmarks of the player that you want your club to sign. So yeah, he could end up never playing a match for us. He could end up doing nothing for us, but I don't think that that's the case. Like he's the kind of player that you definitely want to take a chance on. And I mean, I haven't seen any financial figure thrown around for how much his transfers cost. Based on everything around it, based on the fact that I haven't seen one, I have to assume it isn't too high. So this is the kind of player that you see tearing it up in another league. He's young, has the potential, I believe, to still be homegrown by the time he turns 21. And that's the kind of player you want on your team. If you buy enough of those players, even if some of them don't pan out, even if he doesn't pan out, the next guy that we buy in this same vein, in this same like archetype of player might. And you can buy 8 to 10 of these guys. And if one of them turns out, you're turning a profit easily. Especially with the way that the modern football market is going, where players, when they're like 22 to 23, have first team minutes at a large English club. Those players are 100 million pound players.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so if you can get those players before they become the 100 million pound players, which is what it seems like we're trying to do with players like Min Hyuk Yang, players like Vuskovic, players like Bergvall, if we can get those guys in early, even players like Archie Gray to an extent, because I think that, like I've said earlier, the sky's the limit with that guy. If we can get those players in early before they become the 100 million pound players, we have a squad of 100 million pound players eventually, and we didn't spend 100 million pounds for them. And I think that is a fantastic transfer policy, especially, like as we said, we can't compete financially with teams that just have blatant disregard for financial fair play rules.
Everyone wants the next Yamal until their team plays an unknown 16-year-old and tries out the experiment themselves. It's like, imagine Barcelona are like, 16, what we're going to do is we're going to get Timo Werner on loan. We're going to play him for 3 seasons, and if this guy does enough bits in our academy, we'll give him a chance when he's 19. Like, Spurs have changed tact and started signing youth players they think can enter the first team now. You've got to go on, Stu.
I say it started already when we bought Destiny Udogie. I mean, he was also a kid, and he's would be worth a lot more than what we paid for him. Same with Van de Ven, same with Vicario, same even with Pape Matar Sarr. I think it's definitely the direction we're going in, and the only way we could compete with the rich boys. But in the case of our new acquisition from Korea, unless I'm wrong, I think he's more predominantly on the right, which means Mikey Moore's on the left. So he won't be replacing Werner. Mikey Moore replacing Werner.
So what we've got a succession plan is Mikey Moore starts to rotate into games in the Europa League this year for Werner and Son. And then
Solomon.
Next season, we don't renew Werner's loan, and Mikey Moore takes Werner's role as backup left winger. Sonny's final year, we've extended his contract by a year, hopefully. He gets another year with us, and we're going to win a trophy of Ange that year. Great send-off for Sonny, and Mikey Moore's ready to take the reins when Sonny is 35 years old, and understandably is rightful to go to a different league. And on the right, we've got HG's wish. Johnson is phased out to our new Hongmin Son Ronaldo regen, but on the right. Or we keep Sonny as a squad player. Yeah, exactly.
For the vibes.
For the vibes. I think we'd love it. Sonny's another one who, not born in Tottenham, but he's fully Tottenham.
100%.
And Ange loves him as well, which is key.
But going back to the fee, I think if you just look at a comparison, when the other Korean hotshot, Kim, the defender, was brought to Europe, he cost around €5 million. So I would presume that probably it's a similar low fee for
I was going
this.
to say, I'd probably guess even less than that. A quick look at transfer market, which obviously they kind of just throw shit at a wall and see what sticks in terms of transfer fees, but they have them listed at about 1 million euros. So I'd probably guess usually a good rule of thumb for them is multiply it by 1.5 and you have your probable transfer fee. So even then it's like
Super
under 2
low.
million. Yeah, and for a player that, like I said, has been, I think he's at 8 goals so far this season in the K League already.
We spent 2 million on Lanksheare, so that
exactly, yeah,
cheaper than Lanksheare.
Boys, we need to wrap it shortly, but I want to finish on something else, which is really nice to see. And talking of people who aren't from Tottenham, but get Tottenham, Ange, his team talk. It's in a friendly game, and we've got him on a fly on the wall camera saying, "You're wearing the Tottenham shirt, you play the Tottenham way. That's what we do." Thought that is just the epitome of what you want from a manager you're building. You know, if you could generate someone that was of a certain mold, he is it, right? He is doing everything that we want him to as fans. And I think just a call out to Ange to say we've waxed lyrical about lots of young players we're bringing in, but we see what momentum you are pushing to our club in terms of the culture and the changes to make all this happen. And
and I'd like to say one thing about that. I think it's really interesting, and I would say really reassuring that we, as like people who talk about Tottenham, both as fans, everyone fan, most people in the media, when you talk about how Tottenham play, we talk about it as Ange ball, right? We say this is how Ange plays, so this is how, like, everything that we do is how Ange plays, but that is clearly not how he is referencing this. He's referencing is how Tottenham play, and I think that bodes well. I think that means that he's committed to this like long rebuild, and I hopefully it means that we get set up for success even after.
That's the other thing I love that came out in one of the interviews he did, that he was fully committed to being here and winning trophies with us. And that really, I mean, I already loved Ange before, and now it's just like I will cry the day he leaves us.
Yeah, there was. We've all seen it before with loads of players where it's like, Man United are interested, and they're like, well, you never know what next year brings. It's football. You know, I'm happy here. I like it here, but I never know what next year's going to bring. You're like, see, what you're saying is you're fine here, but if they come in, you'd rather go there. Yeah. So, fuck you. Whereas with Ange, it's kind of like he completely was just like, no, I signed up to complete a mission, which is to win a trophy here. And when that is done, I might move on. But until that is done, not even thinking about that, not interested in that, go away, leave me alone, let me focus on what I'm doing. So nice to have that level of loyalty back that he asks from us as fans.
Because I think also like people push back, but it's not true, he's not like that. If you look at his career, he moves every 2 years, blah, blah, blah. But that's also because he wins and moves up. He's now got to basically the pinnacle of where he can reach. Okay, he can go to Real Madrid, etc. But he's almost there. I mean, we're not the top, but we're just below. So he's not going to move on. He's going to stick with us. I'm sure of it. He's a man of his word.
If he wins a couple of trophies with us, be that 2 FA Cups, a league title, 1 league title, something like that.
Europa League.
No one is going to the Europa League and an FA Cup. We're all going to go, fair play. You did what you said you were going to do. If Real Madrid come knocking, we can't blame you, mate. You've been incredible. Thank you so much for elevating us and also leaving us with a foundation built on what made Tottenham success. You brought back everything that made us successful originally. When we were doing great under Poch, we invested in youth and the same transfer approach we're doing now and playing great football. And that's what it's all about. Signing young, exciting players like Gareth Bale and all that in the high run-up era. It was all that kind of approach to football. We always had a superstar coming through the ranks. And then when we got good, we lost sight of that and started trying to win now approach, the Chelsea approach, whatever it is. And Ange has brought us back to our roots as a football club, back to the culture of what makes Tottenham Tottenham. And he will always have that legacy with us, even if he was to leave in a couple of years' time. So big up, Ange. One last call out to everyone listening. If you're listening on audio, please can you give us 5 stars on Spotify, whatever you listen to? It helps us with the algorithm. It'd be a massive, massive help. Like you said, we don't charge anything. We don't do Patreon, anything like that. But just doing that gives us more money from sponsors, not you. So it just helps out. And if you're on YouTube, 6% of our listeners who regularly listen don't subscribe. So just click on subscribe, and that also helps for the same reason. Thanks.
Takes 2 seconds. 2 seconds to press the button.
2 seconds, just maybe a finger up, click in return for that hour of video editing and the hour of recording we put into this. Deej, do you have any final comments before we move on?
Nothing really. I'm excited for the rest of the preseason. Also, Luka Vuskovic is currently playing against Cercle Bruges, and they're winning 3-0. And he's getting a clean sheet, so...
There you go. Stu, any final comments from you?
No, the only thing I would say is I hope the first team start to click as well as the youngsters have been doing in friendly games, because if they do, then, we're going to win it all this year.
We are. We are going to win it all either way. Right, boys. Upstairs.
Come on, you Spurs.